Hey, everyone, it's Reed. And hey, before we start the episode, we got some big stuff to take care of. Today's the day we are going to announce the tour to PMRE Big Winners. It's the iGUIDE tour to PMRE. And here with me to do the draw is Skylar Lawrence-Lebel of iGUIDE. Skylar, do it, man. We got 2 all expenses paid trips to PMRE. Drawing it now.
All right, Reed, thanks for having me back. Thrilled to do this. I've been looking forward to it all summer. I know we're all excited for PMRE this November. All right, drum roll. Here we go. The first winner is Aileen Allen with Inside Spokane.
Inside Spokane. Whoa, that's Washington. All right. Aileen Allen, congratulations. Big winner. All right. I'm psyched. But that's not all. Skylar, we got 2 of these to do. So you want to hit the other one right now? Should we just do it?
Here it is. Second winner, Scott Brammer of Scott Brammer Photography.
Hey, Scott Brammer, way to go. All right.
We'll be seeing you both at PMRE.
Yeah. And I will there. You know what? I was going to offer to buy them a drink, but forget it. They have everything paid for. They can buy their own damn drink.
And they've got a few drinks on iGUIDE. So it's all right. We'll take care of that.
Perfect. Skylar, I just want to say I appreciate, we've been doing these, promoting this all summer, and I think it's been a really great promotion, and it's been really fun to talk about. And man, that was just so exciting to be able to give it away. Do you have anything really, really quick before we start the episode that you want to pitch about PMRE or about iGUIDE real quick?
Yeah, let me highlight. So I know there's hundreds of people that have applied. These 2 obviously are lucky winners. For everyone else that applied, stay tuned. You'll be getting something in the mail from iGUIDE. So it's going to be a piece of swag. We're going to encourage you to bring it to PMRE, share a picture of you wearing it. There's going to be instruction, all that comes with this, but it'll actually enter you to win something else. So for those that didn't get the trip, we do have something coming their way. So stay tuned on that front.
Oh, and so there's more giveaways to come from iGUIDE. Wow, the most generous company in the real estate media world, I have to say. And also, you gave everyone who entered a $50 discount code to PMRE. So if you haven't booked your ticket, I know PMRE is at least 75% sold out at this time. So get in there, get your ticket, use that $50 code, compliments of iGUIDE. And look, these 2 guys here, we want to see you at PMRE. So Skylar, 100%. Thanks again. And let's get going on this episode. The presenting sponsor of Upmarket is Aereo, the best place to grow and manage your real estate media business. Online at aereo.com. That's ARYEO.com.
Coming to you from the makeshift Upmarket Studios in the beautiful Mississippi River Valley of East Central Iowa, this is Upmarket, a podcast about the business of real estate photography and media. And it is painfully obvious by now that I am not Reed Fish. My name is Bethany Diedrich, and I am a co-owner of Highland Visual.
And I am Andre Diedrich, assistant to the regional co-owner of Highland Visual, coming to you live.
From our basement, actually.
Yes, our fallout shelter.
Yeah. In Iowa, you have to take extra precautions with all the tornadoes.
Yeah, we actually had a tornado the block south of us like a week ago. So
yeah,
good times.
Yeah, good times. Reed is enjoying some well-deserved time off from his podcasting duties.
We have very large shoes to fill.
Very large red shoes. And so this week, we were trying to come up with an idea for what our podcast would be about, and it became very apparent very early on what it probably should be, and that is, what is it like working with a family member?
For the low cost of free, your spouse can be an indentured servant to you in your business.
Is it a good idea to work with your spouse or significant other or other family members? If you're looking to grow and scale, sometimes family can be the first people you think of. Maybe it's the last, but it is relevant to discuss. So thankfully, you don't have to just listen to the 2 of us. We have brought on 2 special guests from Murphy's, California. They're with Sweetwater Photo. We have Tessa and Brian Foster. Welcome to the podcast, guys.
Thank you for having us.
So of course, we met back in November at PMRE, and I think it was at the little shifter meetup that Lauren and Arturo had put together.
Yep.
And then Brian and I attended Shifter Summit then this past March. And if you aren't a YouTube subscriber to the Upmarket channel, you need to be, because this episode will clearly show that our guests are more prepared for the podcast than we are.
I would say they are technologically superior at this point.
Yes. So obviously,
That's
Brian, you have been waiting for this moment because you clearly went out and bought all the gear. No, you had all this already, right?
And hadn't used it yet. So first time.
I think you guys should be hosting and we should be the guest.
I mean, we want to do something like they do with the local real estate market. You know, they have, so that's kind of another thing in our long-term goal, right, is to do something like that. So
Tell me a little bit about how you guys got into the business.
I work for a brokerage, a local brokerage, and I worked there right after call. I'm from Murphy's and I've left a bunch and come back. And when we came back for the last time, they wanted me to come work for them again, which I was happy to do. And I was doing photos. Basically, it's just like the office personnel. I didn't know what I was doing. It just was handheld JPEG, you know, old office camera, no flash or anything. And I got where I couldn't keep up with the listings and all the vacation rentals. We are in a huge second home area. And Brian had 3 days off. He had Friday, Saturday, and Sunday off. And I said, there's an extra camera in the office. Like, you need to start helping me do photos. And that's when he started doing it.
And you were
Yes.
the catalyst in Brian's conversion to the dark side of
Totally.
But and then he jumped in and was like, oh, you aren't doing this right at all. Like, because I was doing, you know, way up in the corner, angled down, security camera angle. I had no idea what I was doing. So he really like jumped in and learned the whole business and went full time in summer of 2020.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Tessa, you currently work for a brokerage right now. Are you working for them full time or are you just part time?
I do work for them full time, and I do the listing photos for the owners and all the vacation rental photos. I don't do drones, so like if they want drones, they'll hire Brian to come do the drones. But I also run some of the other marketing, like I do the flyers for the listings and their realtor.com and Zillow subscriptions and things like that. I get paid hourly, so like I edit everything myself. You know, I shoot and edit it because it's all like, it's a little bit different than trying to get, you know, 3-4 shoots done a day. So, but I actually I'm the weirdest person. I really prefer to edit than shoot. I don't really like to shoot.
Well, as she mentioned a moment ago, she was shooting security camera angles.
That's right. Yep, I was.
But the first step in getting help is admitting that you have a problem and seeking help.
It took me a while to admit it. I was like, no, that can't. Straight verticals, that looks stupid.
You want more floor?
Once Brian started, how did you had a background in it, but did you kind of like dive head first into shooting real estate then at that point?
So I actually didn't really have a background with any photography. I had a little bit of just doing the cabin photos up here. And then I worked a regular job and then shot cabins. And then I slowly started to add on real estate. And eventually I hit a point where I was losing money every day that I was working my regular job, because I'd get there as early as I could, get done as early as I could, and then shoot 2 or 3 homes, run home, edit, and deliver, go to sleep. But it didn't take long until I was losing money by not going full time.
I think that happened to a lot of people too during the pandemic.
I was in a similar situation too. I've helped Bethany, throughout the years here and there. We used to shoot weddings together. So we got started. We took a trip to San Diego. Bethany bought a camera and she just wanted to take some video of our daughter just playing on the beach. And a wedding photographer saw that and asked Bethany hey, you want to shoot some wedding videos with me? And so I helped Bethany. I think we shot 100 weddings?
About
or
100,
so.
yeah, over the last nine years.
But I reached that point where I was working my day job last year, and Bethany is working like crazy, and it's like leaving money on the table. So I just got to the point where I told the guy I work for, who was actually a close friend of mine, I said, I can't, going into 2024, I can't continue on. I have to help my wife full time, because I was divided between that and doing shoots with her and things. So yeah, definitely you reach a point where you have to make a decision. You can't be on the fence. Yeah.
When did you go full time with Bethany?
Just this year, March 1st, technically, but that since we have living in Iowa, the market is pretty much dead January, February, just because it's horrific. It's like Hoth here. It's 20 below zero every day. There's one week we got like 22 inches of snow. Like no one's listing any houses this week.
Right.
So, but once things kick in around March, and we took that time too to spend time training, getting me up to speed, because it's one thing to use a camera in certain settings, and then shooting in real estate, that's a completely different mindset. You use the camera differently. So it's like I had to retrain my mind to take those kind of photos. And so she was patient. And I recovered. The bruises went away eventually.
Patient.
As my quality of my photos went up.
I think I put you through the crucible with weddings. And so I would say he is more patient with me. So I am not the most patient person. And I think well, you probably can agree, it's a little easier to be patient with someone you're not married to, because what did we talk about the other day? You can't,
100%.
Fire your spouse.
Right.
You still have to deal with them at the end of the
You
day.
still have to lay next to them every night.
Right.
And not have them smother you with a pillow.
Unless you have a pull-out couch in your basement office.
I've fallen asleep at my desk a handful of times, but mostly past that.
Yeah, it is really hard, because you're always going to be so much easier on someone that you are just working with, or
Yeah, and once you are shooting as regularly as like Brian and myself had been, and even you, Tessa, as well, but maybe not at the volume.
totally,
Or even like working in that grind of sending, if you're outsourcing to an editor, or if you're editing yourself, or you're doing video too, or all these other extra services.
100%, and not to mention running the whole business side of it. You know,
Exactly.
Right.
it's huge.
Are you at that point now? It sounds like that Tessa may be wanting to do a little bit more with you, or be working more with the business.
So right now our market's cooled a little bit, so it's not as crazy. Earlier this summer, we were really, really busy, kind of almost to that point where I need to kind of shed some off. Tessa's been doing more so far of like our branding and headshot photography,
Which is just getting started, but
yeah. And that's been like, right now we don't have like this year consistently enough to need a second person shooting, but it's been a good opportunity to kind of grow things by like finding something that you're better at than me that still kind of falls underneath, what
plus
we do.
there's like steps. Like I remember when you finally started outsourcing, it's like you go through so much and you're up all night editing, and then finally it's like, oh no, I'm going to do this. So it's just like always kind of growing a little bit, and like, no, we do need to do this. Now we do need to do it. And okay, we need to become an LLC, things like that. Or
It's like you're unlocking achievements as you go.
Yeah. Growing pains.
Exactly that. Like sometimes you just have to jump off the cliff, or push your spouse off the cliff. And matter of speaking, which I struggled with a lot, especially in the beginning. It even though he's been working full time with me now for the last 6 months or 5-6 months or so, for a long time, it was kind of a start and stop. He really was eager to do more work. He saw how stressed out I was, I'd be shooting during the day and editing all my video at night, even though I'm outsourcing all my photos. But seeing me so stressed out and missing out on time on my own family, and wanting your wife to succeed, but having to watch her be stressed out, but at the same time, me being worried that, well, he doesn't know how to do this, and doesn't know how to sometimes when we have that control, that feeling we want to be in control of everything and want to do things a certain way, and it's hard to just let that go. But then you reach a point where you're like, you have to, because otherwise you're going to miss out on maybe a job where they need, like we just had this happen. I literally, before we started recording this tonight,
So this is what we were doing right before the podcast. Was Andre was flying a drone for the first time.
Oh.
And we are also in a flight path to a hospital that's a few blocks away, so we get live flights over. And I kept it, around 86 feet. I think that's reasonable.
Yeah.
But I used to play. I'm famous in a certain video game community
Okay.
as a photographer. So I actually learned how to do Lightroom in Photoshop because it's like a space exploration game, and it's also a flight simulator. And you can fly like all over the galaxy to different nebula, like the real nebula that are out there. And then you can launch a little drone from your ship and take pictures of these nebula and everything else and stars. So I created this whole Instagram account and got thousands of followers. I even won screenshot of the year a few years ago from the game makers.
Oh my goodness.
And I tell you what, there's nothing harder than at the end of the day, going back home to your space station and landing your ship on the landing pad without blowing up and dying.
So you were trained basically
Yeah,
for this.
yeah. So I've had years of training.
Yeah.
That's
I've trained for this my whole life.
I don't think I've ever heard of screenshot of the year. I mean,
and it's not even the best one.
And there's awards and competitions for everything.
I want to see the screenshot for sure.
Yeah.
for me, who has difficulty letting go, there's been a lot of letting go this year, out of necessity, because it's either I let go or you don't learn. And sometimes it's a sink or swim situation, whether you're training them or you're training someone else. But they're always with you, and we know our spouses, we hope or tend, our spouses are reliable.
Well, and with us, I'm a big over preparer. I have to have everything prepared, planned out, rehearsed, everything before I can do something.
Chronically punctual also.
Yes. Yeah. Toxic punctuality.
Toxic punctuality.
the term you came up with. I spend a lot of time waiting a couple streets over before an appointment so that I'm there between 5 and 10 minutes early, because I always want to be in that window. And Tessa's very she can just kind of jump into things. So when she started doing headshots, for me, it was stressful because it was 2 weeks of lighting, setting up lighting, portrait, posing, everything. And you just kind of grabbed the camera and got some good photos.
Yeah, I just can't really worry about all that. That's why we're a good team. He can worry about all the details and the tech stuff. And I like to kind of just wing it with not everything, but stuff like that. And same thing, if I'm going to a shoot and it's 5 minutes away, I'm leaving 5 minutes before. I'm not getting there early.
I'm the same way, and I'm probably, this is probably a little bit of a toxic lateness versus punctuality.
That's me.
But I operate on the thought process that, well, my realtor, if I'm coming and going between shoots, I'm going from shoot to shoot. Agents are going from appointment to appointment, and naturally there should be a little bit of barrier in there. So yeah, sometimes we're running late, and it's for me, it's well, if I communicate, then it'll be fine. But that's a really good point that you guys bring up, because that's the best thing sometimes about working with your spouse, is that you complement each other in different ways, and you each have your own strengths. And sometimes, especially when you're working together, that doesn't really become apparent until you jump right in.
Definitely. And all the little things that bug each other, bug you in your personal life, maybe they complement each other in a work setting.
I was micromanaging Andre quite a bit in the beginning, because my brain operates like a certain pathway, that it has to be done a certain way. And at a certain point, you got to realize that the way that they do it is not wrong. And it's not, they're not doing anything wrong. They just aren't necessarily doing it the way that you do. And that's okay. It's still a deliverable product. It still works. And your client's not going to complain about it. It's not like a huge margin of difference there. It's just a matter of trust and just allowing them to do their thing.
Different pathway to get there, basically. Yeah.
Well, and you can get to a really similar output from different inputs a lot of times, like in the edit. If someone shoots like a little bit differently from each other, it's probably not that different that it can't be made like in the edit to look the same.
Right. Okay. Well, that actually is a really great place to break. So we are going to take a quick break here, and then we will be back with our social media sidebar. Stay tuned. Aereo, how I love thee. Let me count the ways. Personalized ordering forms, streamlined scheduling, integrated payment system, on-the-spot reporting, video hosting, websites. And I could go on and on and on about all the things that we love about using Aereo. And if you want to get in on the Love Fest, you can go to aereo.com, use the code Upmarket, and get 15 free bonus listings. As Reed would say, ooh baby. Conversation with Adam Housley the other day from Second Floor app, and floor plans are becoming so popular, but I feel like there's still so much room to grow in Iowa. And, I thought, Adam, why don't you hire a celebrity spokesperson? And he looked at me and he said, I hadn't thought of that before. And of course, the first person that popped into my mind was none other than former Iowa Hawkeye, Caitlin Clark. I mean, come on, she covers all kinds of square footage on and off the court. So who else would be better to promote Second Floor app? And then Adam looked back at me and he goes, I'll get back to you on that. Honestly though, with the features that Second Floor app offers, you don't really need a celebrity spokesperson. I mean, you have the option to deliver floor plans on the spot, right at the house, send them to your realtor, something not every floor plan provider can offer. So if you want to get in on the action, you can get a free month of service by going to secondfloorapp.com. That's SECOND floorapp.com/upmarket, and you will get a free month of service. All right, social media sidebar time. We are Upmarket Pod across all social media platforms, on your streaming services, Spotify, Apple Music, wherever you are listening to your podcast. Take a moment, give us a 5-star review. I know the guys would really appreciate it. And obviously it's Pot Me Kettle because I don't think I've left a 5-star review. So right after this podcast ends, I am going to go and leave a 5-star review on the podcast I will be editing shortly, so take that as you will. But we are Highland Visual on all social media platforms. Facebook, Instagram is Highland_Visual, because apparently someone else decided to take Highland Visual altogether and not use it. But whatever, we're not complaining. There's a Highland Visual in Highlander country in Scotland, so I can't really.
Hey, sometimes we get people reaching out to us from
Scotland.
Scotland wanting.
That is so funny.
You just get a call that you can't understand.
Be like, yeah, and then give them the travel fee. Like, God, that's a high travel fee. Brian and Tessa, where can we find you guys on social media?
You can find us on Instagram at sweetwaterphoto_Murphys.
And Facebook is Sweetwater Photo. And our new branding division is the Image Co-op, which on Instagram is the Image Co_op.
Oh, fancy. Very fancy. That's awesome. That's like super comprehensive too. So Tessa, are you starting to already really post a lot of content on there? Or?
No, but I would like to start posting more content on there. And I've only really done a handful of things, but that is the goal for the next few months. And as we get into a slower season and ramp that up, because neither one of us are great at social media. So that's another goal of ours is to be more active on there, because we do get a lot of good feedback when we post and when we do collabs with agents and stuff, and it's just a matter of actually doing it.
I post all the time on Instagram, but mainly it's out of necessity, because when it comes to the collaborations, the only way I feel that I actually can add value in that way to realtors that benefits us is to take control of those collaboration opportunities. So it's a situation where, yeah, it's a little extra work, but telling them, hey, asking them, hey, can I go ahead and post this on my Instagram and do a collaboration with you, and it will show up natively in your feed as if you posted it yourself. It literally is like that magic bullet of them being like, oh my God, think of all the things I don't have to do. And some people charge for it. I do know some that charge for it, but I do think it's an incredible value add. And
Totally.
Especially if you're not doing it if you're not adding to your own social media page super often, when you do, it does kind of get that short-term bump in engagement, because obviously people haven't heard from you in a while. So Instagram will give you a little bit of a bump. But once you start posting consistently, if you're posting for other people, if you're collaborating with them, and once you do it once, they will pretty much let you just continue to do it.
It's something you're going to do anyway, and so why not tag them into it?
Well, that's a wrap on our social media sidebar. We will be right back with Tessa and Brian for more goodies in the second half.
Oh, all right. iGUIDE. I got lucky. We have Skylar here. Skylar's going to give us a little nutshell. What's going on with iGUIDE?
Hey, Reed. So many of you probably are familiar, but those of you photographers in art, at iGUIDE, we're known for our precise floor plans, 3D virtual tours, and what many of our photographers love today is our quick capture camera system. So you can capture 3,000 square feet in about 15 minutes.
Yeah, we just gave one of those away earlier in the show.
In terms of talking with many of our operators today, what we continue to hear is really the iGUIDE advantage, or what they love. There's really two things. One, pay per project. So you're only paying for spaces you shoot and capture. And then second, you own your data. So you always be the owner of your data. You're able to actually download it offline as well. But people continue to highlight pay per project and your data ownership.
Oh, yeah. Well, no, I mean, those are those. I like both of those things. I love owning my own data. What a rarity these days. And isn't iGUIDE even more than that? I'm going to throw to you for this, too. Don't you have some kind of lead magnet system that or something? I don't know. Explain it to me.
Yeah, we do. We recently launched what we're calling iGUIDE Lead Magnet. Essentially, it's a new feature within the iGUIDE viewer, allowing potential buyers to contact that listing agent directly through the viewer. Benefit, to you, Reed, as a real estate photographer, is that, it's an added value or feature that you take to your clients. You're now generating leads for your listing agents through the iGUIDE viewer.
Wow. All right, cool. So we're going to go. So to check all that stuff out, we can go to goiguide.com.
Another plug for the Upmarket YouTube channel. We now have an adorable cat on Tessa's lap.
This is Abby. Yeah, she's getting real old, but she's hanging in. She has a wheezy breathing. Here,
Just...
Oh, that is the cutest thing ever. I love how it was going to be like, meow. See, we are a pet-friendly podcast.
Well,
Well, I guess we do have to get back on track talking with Brian and Tessa, our good friends from Sweetwater Photo. And what were we talking about again? Long story short, don't work with your spouse. End of episode.
okay, here's the thing though, because people are like, oh, you work with your wife now? How do you put up with that? How do you do that? Like, we really divide and conquer. There's only maybe once or twice a week that we team up on a shoot.
you have to
If it's
overlap.
like some big, I call it when someone orders the holy enchilada. They want everything.
Yeah, so like during all the COVID everything, we did a Zillow tour. We mostly did Zillow tours. We had an unbranded one that I did through 3D Vista.
Yeah, that's kind of what I meant. Yeah.
I used 3D Vista for like the other tours for my higher end stuff. And during COVID, it was just about every shoot had some kind of virtual tour because of the restrictions for like viewing properties. And now it's dropped off to almost nothing. But what could be interesting for us, like all of us, is with the new rules from the NAR settlement, where if you view a property in person, you have to sign a buyer representation form to view it. But if you go to an open house, you don't have to. At least in California. I just watched a video today from a broker in Texas who they're requiring, I don't know if it's everybody or just this guy, but he's saying like you have to have people sign a buyer representation form even for an open house, which is kind of crazy.
Really?
So I don't know if that's going to
That's happening around here too.
If that's going to be more of an appeal, if there's going to be more of a need for the 360 tours, because then you can view it remotely. It's nice because until you're stepping on the property, you're not having to make like a contractual commitment to someone else.
Might get big again. Yeah.
Or maybe people like really panic and then they'll want that.
That's a really good point.
Know.
Of that, would that really benefit a buyer's agent?
I don't think it would benefit the buyer's agent, but I think it might benefit the listing agent because then they may retain the client. Like they're looking at the virtual tour and then that person calls them if they're paying, depending on what they're doing, but if they're paying to be a Zillow Premier agent or a, Advantage Leads and Branding agent and realtor, they're getting those leads and maybe they're looking at the virtual tour. So then maybe it's going to change a lot,
And it could be another opportunity for like keeping a lot of the marketing or doing more marketing on our side with whatever like delivery platform you use. Are you using the websites? Are you putting the virtual tours on there? Are you doing listing pages where there's a URL that's the address, or can the agents use that to kind of capture their leads if somebody comes to that instead of just going to like Zillow or Redfin or Realtor?
And each site operates so differently. Like Realtor.com has a spot right there, like iGUIDE friendly, it's iGUIDE friendly. The virtual tour is right there, but Zillow is going to push that stuff down and make it more. It's why they eliminated their video their easy video posting. So that's really annoying.
So I was gonna talk actually licensing. You have to go through and export them all as like little tiny JPEGs, get them into a list, have the names, and that's why people don't do it, because it's too much of a pain. And it's like if there was a nice Lightroom plugin that like managed that stuff, that would be really cool. But
let's make an app. Let's make an app for that.
Yeah,
not it.
You should.
And then we'll once we've got it engineered, then we can quit shooting photos because we're making money off all the other photographers.
All right, look at all the money that the Infuse developers are making. I do.
It's good for Flambient.
I do Gary Gomez's workflow if I'm gonna edit, but it took a long time to be comfortable with having someone else edit my stuff. It did help to actually, like, when I have had someone work for me, I can get a similar result because it's all going to one person. And then it's just always the thing of like, how do you get through all the noise to get the signal to find a good editor? I had to kind of humble myself to Cindy James at Shifter and ask her who edits her photos. I'm like, this is really weird, and I'm sorry to ask this, but like, do you ever want to like share your editor? She looks at my name tag and she's like, California. Yeah, I don't care.
You're no threat to her. Yeah. She's a,
It's so sweet.
Usually editors are like coveted, like, no, that's my editor.
Well, that's why I felt bad asking, but she's like, no, he's great. You're not close to me at all, so yeah, go nuts.
I mean, Cindy, you couldn't ask a nicer, more well-adjusted person, and that's a huge compliment to Cindy, who I will now tell to listen to this podcast episode because I'll probably include that.
She's gonna be like, nobody else asked me for my edit.
Yeah. We've gotten to be really good friends with our editor. His name's Tam, and he's in Vietnam. And it's like we wish each other like a good night every night. And we talk about like what beverages we're consuming, and he wants us to like. He keeps saying like, "Come over to Vietnam. I'll show you around," and everything.
He's invited us to Hanoi. It's like,
that's so cool.
I mean, he's been my editor for almost 4 years, and it's like I like more of the design friendly approach, the natural look, like with not just lights off, but like realistic windows.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
But we're both perfectionists. So even in like my side business as a painter, like I only take on certain painting jobs. Like I won't take a garbage paint job. I work for interior designers and stuff. So it's just been a mentality that we both have, that we're just offering a higher quality product.
Yeah.
And so it's more expensive. Yeah.
Creative and business scalability is difficult because unless you are charging an obscene amount and have a larger staff that can duplicate that, you have to scale what's consistent across the board. And so what do you see as your trajectory moving forward, especially since it sounds like Tessa's looking to expand the business more in the lifestyle and branding sector. It's a unique product in any area, but especially when you live in a small community like yours or ours, relative to big cities. Where do you see that taking you in the future? As far as what are your goals? Like, what are your goals moving forward? Do you want to stay in the real estate space? Or are you looking to make that a smaller part of your business and move on to more of a niche market? Or are you wanting to maintain both sides of that too?
For being such a small area where we are, we have a lot of business just within a short little drive. For being in such a tiny little, like, population-wise area, most of our business with it is within 20 minutes of home. For the commercial stuff and more architectural, we don't really have as much right around here. We do have one small architectural firm close to us, but most of the work is going to be getting out of that, coming off the mountain, and then going to,
so to speak.
Yeah. Like bigger cities, Sacramento, Stockton, out to the Bay, and then.
But that is, I think that's your goal, is to do more of that. You would enjoy that more. Yeah. The slower paced, not so much like shoot 4 houses a day and like.
Not rushing production, but like having the time to
quality.
Wait for the sun to move a little bit. Like shooting real estate, so much of what we have to do is pretend that time of day doesn't really exist. Like whether I'm there in the morning or I'm there at noon, I have to kind of work against the light, versus with commercial work and architectural work where we have a little bit more time for the sun to move, the light to change, the mood of a space to change.
It's more intentional. And even when we set expectations with our clients for products, like for instance, our business model is not a volume business model like some of our competitors are. And that's because of the approach that we like to take to our work. I've gotten to a certain point in a way as a creative, and I'm sure you could agree, that you start to butt heads with what's realistic. That comes into play, especially when you're considering what direction are you wanting to scale that business. Are you wanting to scale it in a way that you just don't want to deal with the day-to-day grind anymore? You're getting burnt out, you're getting tired, you're getting older, especially if we really enjoy the work that we do and feeling rushed. Just like we were talking the other day about when Mick Froelich was on as a cinematographer, how he's in awe of how real estate photographers can go on site literally and produce something with the circumstances they have. Meanwhile, I'm like twitching, then people still do book through the system. But I have people reach out to me personally and say, Bethany, I have this property But I want to know what's the best time of day for me to, and I'm like, what's the address? I need to look it up. I need to go to Sunseeker app. I need to go. And then I have to bring myself back down to earth and go, it's real estate, Bethany. What we're trying to provide to the client is not necessarily in alignment with what that client's goals are.
Kind of what we've found was, because there have been other people that have come into our market and lasted for a while and maybe not been around so long, but most of what people are looking for is someone to show up, someone to like be there on time, to do what you're supposed to do and deliver quickly. Like,
right.
I want things to be perfect, but most of the production real estate agents don't care about my level of perfection. They care about, can I have these turned quickly? And then I end up getting in my own way. And a lot of us do end up getting in our own ways, trying to make sure that things are absolutely perfect. And the little differences
nuances,
people are going to see. Yeah. We see it and they don't. They're not looking at raw files. We are.
It's along the lines of what I've heard a couple of times, and that it's easy to get to 90%, right? We work and work and work and work, and we get better, and getting to that first 90% is not super difficult to achieve. But as you get closer to that 100%, differences in quality and the nuances and the details, and that it requires an eye that's a lot more defined. And to be honest, the majority of our clients that we're working for right now in real estate, they can't tell the difference between a virtual twilight and a real twilight, and I'm personally offended.
Right. That's, I feel like that all the time.
Actually, you have money invested in real twilights.
Right. Whereas a virtual twilight, it's like, oh, it's $20, or some people include it in their packages, and there's nothing wrong with that. However, I've had conversations with realtors, and they've said, hey, I've seen these, how does this realtor get these cool photos, like it's their cover photo on every single property? It's like, it looks like sunset, but the house looks like different. And I'm like, are you talking about a virtual twilight? Like, I'm trying to like, just get, like, you're talking about virtual twilight. And after you explain the process to them and explain that's actually not real, that's done in post-production. And that's kind of it's a product that a lot of people enjoy and like. And still to this day, there's realtors that absolutely love them. And there's nothing wrong with that. But then once you convert someone to twilights and they actually invest in one, and up until recently, well, I still don't charge enough for them, especially in the summertime. It's harder because you have to change your whole price point for seasons. And once you have, I rarely do a twilight. Rarely do we do twilights. But I had 1 week in June where I did 6. And it was just, but that was it. I haven't done one since. And it was this like domino effect where there's just several of these properties. They were very unique, niche. Again, it's certain people that see that need, and they have a certain like clientele that, and that's where you divide into that niche market where you get beyond that 90%.
I would say like there's a certain amount of effort to get to the 90%, but to get that final 10% is just as much effort as it took to get to the 90%.
So whatever path we take forward, that will require action. And that means it's time for our action items. And our action items today are sponsored by Pixel CRM. Pixel CRM was designed by a real estate media professional for real estate media professionals, and help real estate photographers just like you thrive with their all-in-one sales and marketing suite. Go to pixelcrm.com. That's pixelcrm.com/upmarket, and you can get a free 30-day trial with setup. Pixel CRM. Who should go first?
You want to go first?
Sure, I'll go first. My action item does kind of have to do with our topic tonight, which is working with your spouse. And it's an action item that we don't do, but we should. And I just was going to say, if you are working with your spouse or you're thinking about it, take some time to do things away from work, like go out and have a day together and don't talk about camera gear, don't talk about editing, like take a little time away from your work. And that's something that we would like to implement, I think, and we don't necessarily do. So that's having to do with this episode. And then Brian has one that's a little bit more generic.
So my action item, it's something that's come up, I think, probably as an action item before, and I know it's come up in conversations with other photographers and at PMRE. License your photos. Make sure that you have some kind of way to keep track of what right somebody has to use your photos. Don't just give up on them. There's a lot of value in them. If you let other people use them, they'll find a way to make money off of them, whether it's for another listing or an Airbnb. And that's a lot of money that you're just leaving on the table by not having anything in place.
It's not that hard to do.
Yeah.
To write a license. There's tons of them online. Like, there's really no excuse to not have one, I think.
No, that's excellent. Always applicable. What's your action item, honey?
My action item is to continue to learn, to continue to better myself. So far, being new and new full time in this industry, I've worked really hard on the photography side of things. I need to get better in basically, get my hands dirty with video and other things. And a lot of that is just so that we can kind of equalize. So Bethany's up here with how much she's doing, and I'm down here, which is having an impact. But I think, how can I have a greater impact? So working on video, working on drone and other things, so that then the workflow between the two of us can equalize. And one skill I would love to learn is podcasts.
Reed would love that very much.
Right.
So my action item is very simple, and it is to check your temperature patience-wise. If you are going to grow and scale your business in any way, shape, or form, whether you are working with your spouse or significant other or family member, whomever, or someone that you know who's wanting to get into the industry and potentially shoot for you or work for you, identify how you best could help that person and recognize that that person is starting where you were several years ago. Your knowledge was limited. Look at how far you have personally come in your growth, and look at that potential in the person that you're training, no matter who that is. Reflect upon your own patience. So
that's good to
anyway,
remember.
Patience is key.
Especially when working with your spouse.
And on that note, thank you guys so much for joining us. We had so much fun. I'm so glad you were willing to uproot your lives for an evening to spend with us crazy people on this episode. So
thank you so much for having us. It was so much fun.
Awesome. And to our listeners, thank you so much.
This is going to be the highest rated episode ever.
It is.
I think so.
Calling it.
Upmarket is a production of Upmarket Studios. This episode was produced by Chelsea Froelich and edited by Bethany Diedrich. Thank you so much for listening, and we really hope you listen to the next one too. In the meantime, our wish for you is to not have to shoot any Friday night twilight shoots. Thank you for everything.